Hi, Medical Wildcats. I'm Joseph Guggenheim. I'm a 1972 alum of the medical school. And this month's presentation is on the Rockefeller of Lakeshore Drive. Edith Rockefeller, the daughter of John D. Rockefeller Sr., lived just around the corner from us on Lakeshore Drive for several years. This is a picture of her home at 1000 North Lakeshore Drive. Just a few blocks from the medical school campus are two rather unassuming buildings, as shown at the red arrows. There's no reminder of the history of this location. Diagonally across from the Drake Hotel on Michigan Avenue are two apartment buildings. The first, the smaller one here in the picture on the right, is 1000 Lakeshore Drive, which was built in 1953. It's a rather unsightly building with window air conditioning units sticking out and these colored panels, which appear to be light blue in this picture, but they're actually green. The other building is a 55-story 1000 North Lakeshore Drive Plaza apartments, and these were built a little later in 1966. And you can see they're at the corner of Oak Street and Lakeshore Drive. This building is adjacent to the 1000 Lakeshore Drive apartments, which is shown just north of the larger building in this picture. There was a mansion here which was located on this site, which housed one of the wealthiest couples in the United States. In 1909, they changed the address from 88 Bellevue Place to 1000 Lakeshore Drive, which was an address more befitting for somebody of their wealth. But unfortunately, neither bride nor groom were very knowledgeable about managing their money. The couple's wealth disappeared, leaving the estate in debt, and then the mansion was demolished in 1953, as shown on the right. This was a huge financial merger. November 26, 1895, two of the wealthiest families in the country merged. The bride was Edith Rockefeller, the youngest daughter of John D. Rockefeller, probably the wealthiest man in United States history. The groom was Harold Fowler McCormick, who was the son of Cyrus McCormick, who invented the mechanical reaper and founded International Harvester. As a youngster, Edith enjoyed riding her bicycle and horses, playing the cello, skating, swimming, and reading voraciously, what any active, intelligent young girl would do that had plenty of privilege. She was schooled by private tutors and teachers. She never went to a traditional school. Despite the family wealth, the children were taught to be very frugal. Her parents were strict Baptists, and frivolity and alcoholic consumption were forbidden in the house. When she was young, she was fascinated by the Far East and briefly considered missionary work in Japan. This is a picture of Edith at the top of the picture and three of her siblings, including the boy, John D. Rockefeller Jr., who was a major philanthropist of the Rockefeller dynasty. Edith was the youngest daughter of John D. Rockefeller. She was the fourth of five children and perhaps the most intellectual. She grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and moved to New York City as a teenager. And this is a picture of their home in Cleveland. It was on several acres. It was built in 1868 and demolished in 1938. Harold was the sixth of seven children. He grew up in Chicago. The family home was at 675 North Rush Street, just around the corner from the hospital. He had two siblings who died of scarlet fever. He grew up in a devout Presbyterian home with little play or frivolity. After finishing at a very exclusive boys' school, he graduated from Princeton. The couple married in New York City at Harold's Suite in the Buckingham Hotel instead of at the Fifth Avenue Baptist Church, as his future father-in-law had wanted. Harold was reported to be a hypochondriac, and 2 days before the wedding, he complained that he was having pleurisy. So the wedding venue was changed with only 2 days advance notice. Invitations had been sent to 1,200 guests, and they were notified 2 days before of the change in venue. The reception was held at the Rockefeller Mansion on 54th Street in Manhattan, and this is their wedding picture. After an extended honeymoon in Italy, the family moved to Council Bluffs, Iowa for 2 years. And this is a picture of the International Harvester facility where Harold worked. He ran the facility in Iowa. The building now is on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places. The couple moved to Chicago in 1897 after a 2-year honeymoon, and Edith and Harold purchased this 42-room mansion on Lakeshore Drive at Bellevue Place. You can see in the picture there's no fence or gate around the property. It was built in 1883 for grain merchant Nathaniel Jones for $75,000. He sold it in 1890 to Railroad Executive General Joseph Torrance for $150,000, a nice profit in 7 years. When Edith and Harold moved in, they erected this iron gate, which had been at the German exhibit at the 1893 Columbian Exposition, and they also built this 10-foot high wall. This is a picture taken from the west end of the mansion, looking south from Bellevue Place. The gate was wrought by hand with no patterns, and I understand this is a much more difficult way of making an iron item, and requires a lot more artistic skill. Edith dreamed of turning this house into a mansion with an art gallery for her artwork, her jewelry, her tapestries, her dinnerware and china. She acquired the home in 1921 when the couple divorced. The family had many philanthropic causes. They supported the opera, the Art Institute. They donated the property for the Brookfield Zoo, which had been donated to Edith from her father. They started an infectious disease institute, and they supported the juvenile court system and subsidized author James Joyce and physician Carl Jung. Edith quickly assumed the role of the Queen of Chicago society, replacing Potter Palmer's wife, Bertha. She hosted up to 3 formal dinners per week. She promised her father that alcohol would never be served in her house, so she said the dinners had to be spectacular because there was no wine. Name cards were written in gold with menus in French. And this is a painted portrait of Edith from 1911. And like many affluent ladies at the time, they wanted the picture to be idealized, perhaps not resembling what they really looked like. You can see her hourglass figure, which is not really realistic. She served dinnerware. She served dinners on dinnerware, which had previously been owned by Napoleon Bonaparte, and lived with formality and routine. She required 4 men to serve lunch for 2. And because of her fear of water, she rarely bathed, but she often changed her clothes 3 times a day. And you can see in this picture of the mansion, you can see the iron gate and fence, which has now been erected under the McCormick's possession of the house. Edith had been collecting antiques ever since they were married, and even while living in Iowa. She knew what she liked and was more skilled as a collector than a decorator, and her decorating skills were criticized. The mansion, which she named the Bastion, required at least 17 to 20 employees dressed in knee breeches. She never spoke directly to the staff, but treated them kindly. Instead, all direction was given through Baxter, the head butler. And this schedule was printed every day, with every minute planned, as had been done at the elder Rockefeller's home where she grew up. The couple had 5 children, and the first was named John, and he was called Jack. He is the one standing in front of Harold in this picture. The second son was born in 1897. The grandfather, John D. Rockefeller Sr., was very proud of his first grandson, which had been named in his honor. Jack contracted scarlet fever at the age of 4 and died, so this picture was made just before he became ill and died. Edith sunk into deep depression, and the family established the John Davison Rockefeller Memorial Institute in Jack's memory to find the cause and cure for scarlet fever and other infectious diseases. They also supported the opera. Harold became president of the Chicago Opera Company. The poster on the right says Chicago Grand Opera Company. This company had financial problems, and the McCormick saved it, and then the name was changed to Chicago Opera Company. They paid at least $5 million to make up for the company's deficit. They also contributed to a monument honoring opera composer Giuseppe Verdi in Parma, Italy. Edith hosted dinner parties before the opera, and her dining room could seat at least 200 guests. She kept a clock by her plate at the dinner. A uniformed butler stood behind every guest. Edith did not want to be late for her arrival at the opera box, so the dinners ended in 35 minutes, which is why she kept a clock at her plate. Butlers removed all eating utensils at that time. Because of her fear of water, crossing the Chicago River to attend the opera caused great anxiety. But Harold's interest in the opera may have been more than just the love of music. He became enamored with Polish opera singer Jana Walska, whom he would later marry in 1922, a year after his divorce for Edith. Harold's third marriage was in 1938. He died in 1941 of cerebral hemorrhage. Edith became severely depressed after the death of her son Jack. Dr. Carl Jung, protege of Sigmund Freud, came to the United States to meet with her, and she decided to undergo psychoanalysis. He wanted to do it in Zurich, and she wanted to do it in Chicago, but he won out, and she decided to move to Zurich, Switzerland. It was estimated that it would take 2 to 3 years to cure her, but she departed in 1913 and did not return for 8 years. She claimed Jung had cured her of her renal tuberculosis. She became a lay psychoanalyst and had approximately 100 patients. She has some eccentricities. This is a picture of her at a costume party in 1913, just before she went to Zurich. She celebrated Christmas on December 15th, and I have not been able to learn why she did that. She believed in reincarnation and astrology. At a dinner party in 1923, she announced she had been the child bride of King Tut, whose Egyptian pyramid had just been opened, and there was a chair in the tomb. She said she recognized this as a chair she had owned as a child. She had a fear of travel. She insisted a car and driver accompany her train whenever feasible. She insisted on being driven across Bellevue Place, the street on the north side of their mansion, just to attend meetings at the Fortnightly, which was a meeting venue on the opposite side, directly opposite their mansion. She walked the length of Lakeshore Drive every day with her friend Edwin Krenn. More about Krenn later. She had a detective, which was really a security guard, following them 10 paces behind the couple. They would frequently see movies, sometimes up to 3 a day. This is a picture of the couple of Krenn and Edith in 1932 on Easter morning. She died in August 1932, so she was already ill in this picture. The couple built a country home 200 to 300 acres in size on the land that they acquired from the McCormick family. And the reason I say acquired is some sources say they bought it. Some sources say that the McCormick family gave it to them. And some people say it was 200 acres, some say 300, and several sources say somewhere in between. By comparison, the Northwestern University campus in Evanston is about 242 acres. They named their house Villa Turicum, which is Celtic for settlement on the water and Latin for Zurich. You can see the size of the mansion and the formal gardens in this aerial photograph. The house was 32 miles north of their Lakeshore Drive address. They paid $2 million for the lot, that is, if they actually bought it, and $7 million for construction and landscaping. The couple consulted 3 architects, James Gamble Rogers, who designed the collegiate Gothic buildings for the Northwestern campuses in Evanston and Chicago, Frank Lloyd Wright, and Charles Adams Platt. Wright designed a prairie-style house, and when he arranged to show his proposal to the couple, Edith refused to keep the appointment because she said that prairie-style was not appropriate for Lake Forest. So the family went with Charles Platt's recommendation. This is a picture of Frank Lloyd Wright's rejected proposal, showing the sprawling prairie-style house. Construction began in 1908 and lasted at least 4 years. Nobody knows exactly how long it took, but sources say it took at least 4 years, and sources fail to say whether it was ever finished or not. The estate featured a polo field, a bowling green, swimming pool in the lake, cascading waterfalls from the house to the lake, stairs to and from the lake, and an elevator to return to the mansion up on the bluff in case you didn't feel like walking, marble fountains, and formal gardens with statuary. There were 44 rooms, 12 primary bedrooms, all exactly the same except for color, 15 bathrooms, and a garage for 21 cars. This is a current picture, and this is not Villa Turicum, but this is the mansion that has replaced it. You can see the remains of the swimming pool at the bottom of the picture with the east end of the swimming pool destroyed. And you can see what looks like some parallel vertical lines at the right side of the picture. And this is the cascading waterfall, which still remains. After the couple divorced in 1921, Harold lived there part-time. Edith spent only one night on the property. She slept in the coach house because she had been told by a clairvoyant that she would die if she slept in the house. And the house was always fully staffed in case Edith decided to return. The property was adjacent to what was recently Fort Sheridan military base and is now a residential area. And perhaps the shelling at the military base made occupying the house unpleasant. After 8 years in Zurich, Edith returned to Chicago with Swiss architect and/or gardener Edwin Krinn. Sometimes it's Edwin, sometimes it's Edward, sometimes he's a gardener, sometimes he's an architect, and sometimes he's a landscape architect when you read about his history. He moved into the Drake Hotel, where he surrounded himself with statues of Buddha. He accompanied Edith on her daily walks on Lakeshore Drive and to her social events. There was talk of marriage between the two, but it never occurred. She left 5/12 of her estate to Krinn, which was more than she left to any one family member. Edith and Harold divorced in 1921. She kept the Lakeshore Drive mansion. He kept Villa Turicum. Krinn and Edith partnered with another Swiss, Edward Dato, and they planned several real estate projects, largely financed by her Standard Oil stock, which took a nosedive in the late 20s and early 30s during the Depression. They had a planned community between Chicago and Milwaukee on the drawing board called Chilwaukee, midway between Chicago and Milwaukee. They planned an Atlantic-style resort of the Midwest that they called Edithstown Beach, and they had planned middle-class housing in Skokie and Highland Park, and some of this actually was built and it still stands. Edith was, despite being somewhat eccentric, was reputed to be a kind person. She allowed the tenants at her rental properties to stay during the Depression, even when they could not make rent payments. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1930 and underwent a mastectomy at Passavant Hospital. And at that time, she was no longer able to take care of the mansion or pay for its upkeep. Her brother, John D. Rockefeller Jr., took over her finances and moved her into the Drake Hotel. She died in 1932, $2 to $3 million in debt. Her body lay in a vault at Graceland Cemetery in Chicago for decades until her son Fowler arranged for the burial. Harold died of a cerebral hemorrhage in 1941. After the divorce, he continued to live part-time at Villa Turicum and also his parents' house on Rush Street. He founded a commuter airline that transported him and fellow North Shore suburb residents to and from downtown and to and from the South Shore Country Club. But the airline failed due to the unpredictable weather on Lake Michigan. After the couple died, the houses were demolished. But before they were demolished, they underwent several ownership changes. Edith wanted both homes to become art museums. The Lakeshore Drive mansion was briefly considered as a site for a restaurant, but the city zoning board denied the request. Their daughter Muriel bid on and acquired all the monogrammed furnishings because she did not want any of them to fall into the hands of strangers. In this picture of a snowy day during the demolition, lower right-hand corner, you can see a crane pointing upward. And just below that is a dark building. This is Tower Hall. This is the building that housed the overflow Navy recruits during World War II after Abbott Hall was occupied completely. The building still stands. It's now part of Loyola University. You can see the iron gate and fence in the upper right corner. They were sold as scrap metal. In 1937, a public auction was held for the mansion, and there were no bidders. In 1938, it was sold to a syndicate which inherited it when the heirs defaulted, and it was demolished in 1953 and replaced with apartments. Many mansions were replaced after demolition after World War II, especially in the 1950s. This was demolished in 1953, and the McCormick's mansion on Rush Street was demolished in 1955. The Potter Palmer's mansion, the first mansion on Lakeshore Drive, was also demolished about the same time. In the early 1950s, the house and property were offered to the Villa Turicum was offered to the city of Lake Forest, but the offer was declined. It was considered for a private club, but no buyer could be found. In 1933, the house and surrounding property, that is 200 or 300 acres, were sold at an auction for only $51.5 thousand. Her personal property was put up for auction, as seen in this notice on the right, but it realized only $25,000. In 1947, a real estate syndicate purchased the house at Villa Turicum and most of the acreage for about $77,000, plus $66,000 in taxes. In other words, it was purchased for millions and sold for thousands. In 1956, Robert Kendler of Community Builders purchased the house and acreage for $150,000 plus back taxes. He was planning on remodeling it and opening it again, but the house was determined to be structurally unsound, defaced with vandalism and graffiti. So the house was demolished in 1956, and the area was replaced with 161 lots for single-family homes, which is the way it is today. Some of the ruins of the original building can still be seen, and this is actually a current picture. The structure at the bottom of the picture in the foreground is the remains of a swimming pool. Lake Michigan is higher than it was back then, and the eastern corner of the swimming pool has been ruined. You can see the descending waterfall, the structures of the parallel lines on the right side of the picture. The reflecting pond and the tea house also are still present in Lake Forest. This is a current house which has replaced Villa Turicum, and it's on the market now. Last month it went on sale for $29.5 million, and there was no buyer, so they reduced the price this month to $27.5 million if you're interested. This is the cascading waterfall, which was modeled after Villa d'Este in Italy, and this is the tea house. Both structures are still standing. Villa Turicum was demolished in 1956. More than 5,000 people lined the street outside Lakeshore Drive to watch the start of Edith's funeral procession. This was the final chapter in an unfortunate story of a couple who initially appeared to have it all. Let's get together again virtually next month, and I look forward to getting together with you. And in the meantime, stay healthy and stay connected with each other. And I look forward to our virtual meeting next month.